1. This is not an epic tale, but still makes me smile when I think about it. Some years ago, I worked in a store that deals with security devices. CCTV, alarms, home automation and stuff. It was part of a larger chain. The HQ was in a town some 5 hours drive away, and the chain itself was set up in a way that the store manager was, in most cases, on a B2B contract with the store chain. My store was a bit different. Because the guy who hired me was in charge of 2 stores, ours, the smaller one, and another one in his hometown about 1.5 hours drive away. That meant I wasn't directly connected with the chain management structure. This will have consequence later. Now, the store I was working at was managed by a girl, Barb, that's, and it's important, about 1.7 meters tall, about 5'7" for you Imperial crowd. And what she lacked in height, she made up with character. When she knew something was dumb, she pointed it out loud and direct. If it happened to be a manager or director in the chain company, well, shit, he gets blasted in the face with both barrels. She was great at her job, though, and I liked working with her. She showed some restraint towards customers. But when a Karen showed up, well, we didn't get many Karens. Our manager was also a great guy that stood up for us, and since he was our employer, he was the buffer between us and the higher-ups. Our store, on the other hand, was the smallest from all of the nearly 40 stores across the country in size, like literally 40 square meters, which is close to 450 square feet, including basement storage. But since we often got the results rivaling stores twice our size in cities 3 times bigger, we finally got to move to a larger place. We were happy about it for 2 reasons. 1, the new place was 3 times bigger and on 1 level. And 2, it had air conditioning. Our old place barely had any ventilation. When the move was finally approved, we, per the chain company request, needed to get it done in 2 days. So day 1, we all pack our stock, our stuff, PCs, register, documents, etc. in boxes, dismantle the furniture that could be dismantled, and book a van to move all this stuff to the new place. On day 2, we moved with the support of our manager and 3 guys from the chain, 2 of whom were on the company's board. The company was kind of weird in this way. Their job, along with helping the manual labor, was to make sure everything goes smooth and take inventory. Day 1 took about 12 hours. On day 2, we started at 8 a.m. and got everything moving. It was dark out when we finally got everything set up, after about 12 or 13 hours of work. At this point, we had all of our front-end customer ready with minor details to go, one of them being where the printer will go, while me and Barb wanted it behind our back on a low shelf, easy access. Enter Bob, nearly 1.95 meters, 6'5" tall, bulky, bald dude, senior manager, and member of the board of the chain company. He argues that the printer should go below the desks. We had 2 large desks making a counter that spanned nearly the width of the store, leaving only a small gap that we use to get to the front of the store, so the customers won't see it. We noted that the place he wanted the printer is taken by the trays for all the invoices and other documents we produce in excess on a daily basis.
You can take the paper to the back,
Bob says. After every printout? You serious? Barb replies. Ever seen a miniature pincher barking up a Doberman? It looked something like this, only the Doberman was as angry as the pincher. They were on each other's throats for a good 10 to 15 minutes. Everyone was dead tired after what was essentially a full 12 hours of manual labor. This is when my tired mind got the best of me and I said, Barb, just let it go. We do it his way, and when they leave tomorrow, we'll set it our way. I only realized I said it out loud when it became dead quiet and everyone stared at me. Bob was pissed. Now, I'm 1.9 meters tall myself, 6'3", but still only a lowly salesman, and I just basically told the board member to suck it. Barb looked at me, then at Bob, and finally at our boss. The moment when our boss said, "See, you have no power here, just leave it," was the moment I realized I was holding my breath. Bob sighed loudly and told us to do whatever, which we did. When I left the company some 3 years later, I got tired of retail but still remain on good terms with the company. The printer was in the same spot I put it on that day. No one from the chain dared to move it. 2. A little background. I work in the film and TV industry. At the time of this story, I was working at an entry-level position called Production Assistant, PA for short, on a failing TV show. My duties included office upkeep, stocking the kitchen, research for coworkers, various paperwork, picking up supplies from vendors, and picking up lunch for everyone in the department, among a long list of other tasks. Now, I really liked my immediate boss, Coordinator Number 1. The two of us had a system to keep the office running, and we were starting to become friends. The problem, our department head was a sexist and racist ass. At the height of the Me Too movement, I might add. After one too many demeaning darlings, Winks sneaking his girlfriend into the office and flipping through Tinder on company time, Coordinator Number 1 reported him to the higher-ups. But in typical Hollywood fashion, they gave him a gentle slap on the wrist and sent him back to the department. So Coordinator 1 left the show in disgust. Enter Coordinator Number 2. I knew Number 2 and I wouldn't get along immediately. She had been fired from her previous TV show for attitude problems. On her first day, she chewed me out for, I shit you not, hanging the actor photos 11 inches too low on the wall. It only got worse from there. This woman sucked up to the creepy department head, found fault with everyone around her, and loved power trips. She quickly made herself a nuisance to everyone in the department, but creepy department head was too busy with Tinder to do anything. Between her constant berating, treating me like I was stupid, and unprofessional rudeness, she made my life a living hell. The final straw came when she screamed at me in front of the entire department for a small mistake. I almost packed my bag and walked out right there. In hindsight, I should have, but she told me I'd be replaced at the end of the month, so I thought I'd hang in there and collect a paycheck while I could. From then on, I counted down the days and made no attempt to hide my misery. The thing is, the TV show had barely started filming, and we were already severely behind schedule. The poor construction department was building sets 24/7, and the first episode was supposed to air in the next few weeks. For everyone in our department, this meant extremely long hours and working 6 days a week. Not my problem, I was leaving soon. Number 2 reminded me on the last week.
Friday is your last day.
It ended up being a hell of a week, more long hours and running behind schedule. The department would need to work another Saturday. Well, Friday came and I gleefully counted down the hours. At the end of the day, Number 2 realized her mistake. She hustled over to me on my way out the door.
Can you work Saturday?
You malicious compliance. Nope. You said Friday is my last day. That's when she got huffy.
I'm trying to get you some extra money.
Giving up 1 day of a measly PA paycheck was well worth the look on her face when I said, "No thanks, Friday is my last day. Bye," and walked out to happily never see her again. I took a job on a much better show a few weeks later with the nicest crew. To this day, I've worked on lots of other shows, and I always warn my coworkers not to ever work with her. Turns out she has quite the bad reputation around town even without my help. The fallout after I left. Now that there was no PA working Saturday, Number 2 had no choice but to do both her job and mine. Years later, I am now a coordinator, and I can tell you it's a job that keeps you busy. There's no way I'd be able to get anything done without the help of my amazing PAs. So it gives me extreme satisfaction to know she had to get off her high horse, halt her very important emails, and go get everyone lunch and snackies until my replacement was found. 3. I used to be a Starbucks barista. We had a woman who would come in every morning and order, I kid you not, a double tall vanilla latte with 3/8 a pump of vanilla. Not a half pump, 3/8 a pump. She even made one of the baristas mark our bottle pump with a Sharpie. Every single day, the first cup we'd make, no matter who made it, it was always wrong. Either too sweet or not sweet enough. So after a while, I began to just pretend to make another drink, pull the steam wand, and wave my hands around like a fool behind the machine. I would hand her back the same drink we made her the first time, and it was always perfect the second time. even though it was the same drink. On my last day of work, this woman decided to come in twice a day. She was being over-obnoxious and talking on her cell phone about deals and her assistant, and essentially just announcing her importance to everyone in the room. It was 3 in the spring, and the place was filled with teenagers ordering frappuccinos. I had both blenders going and both steam ones going when this woman decided to yell at me.
God, I can barely hear myself think.
So I replied, funny, I can still hear you complaining. If you knew me, you'd know I have the perfect facial expression to go with it. I looked like a snarky little shit. I told her that I'd been handing her back the same drink every morning for over a year too. I said verbatim, kinda embarrassing now that you know, right? 3/8 is a half pump for all intents and purposes here, ma'am. She lost it. She demanded my manager fire me on the spot or she'd call corporate and we'd lose her business, blah blah blah. I hated my manager. He was the opposite of a spirit of the rules law kind of person, and really enjoyed making our lives more difficult than they needed to be. I knew that firing me reflects quite negatively on his quarterly reviews and knew he wouldn't do it. He told her it was my last day, and the best he could do was send me home early, which would be a reward rather than a punishment since the store was so busy. She proceeded to spend the next 2 hours on hold with corporate outside. Then, when corporate either accidentally hung up on her or told her to shove it, she threw her a glass, called me a little bitch in front of a ton of kids, and ran to her car. To her husband, sorry for that night, bro, totally my fault. She was offered a gift card, I think, but this lady was universally disliked by employees and customers alike. 4. So I work as a minimum wage cashier at a discount store. I see a lot of people in a day, especially people who know how to do my job better than me, due to their lack of experience and profound understanding that my job is the easiest in the world. Now, I always shut that shit down, in the classic corporate happy public service employee way. Well, actually, it makes it a little easier this way, but thank you so much for helping. Like I'm talking a toddler down from an upcoming tantrum, but I don't leave room for arguing. It's almost like I'm playing a character, honestly, it works for me. But I never just let someone do something stupid. And letting them walk out with a bag too heavy without double bagging it, or letting them leave putting their receipt in their bag if it looks like they might want to return it. But not today. It's Saturday, so it's busy. All day, as I would finally get a minute to get my other work done, someone would come up, taking forever to consider the impulse buys while I'm stuck waiting for them at the register, getting nothing done. This woman did that. But twice. She got up there, pondered for a minute, got a line behind her, decided to go look at something else. I'm stuck with this line until just before she gets back and ponders again before finally getting to me. She's your average-looking middle-aged soccer mom, but she's already getting on my nerves. But hey, it's Saturday and every customer gets on my nerves, so whatever. She's got a lot of larger but lightweight items with some smaller items like bags of candy and socks. So I'm getting half of it in one large bag, half of it in another large bag. So I go to get the second bag, handing her the first one when she goes,
No, I don't want a lot of bags. You can fit the rest in there, it's fine. You should ask before getting more bags. It's your job to do things how the customer wants, and asking. Otherwise, you should just know how to do one bag if you can. It's wasteful. I only want one bag.
And I thought to myself, wow, it sounds as if she's never done retail a day in her life. She must know what she's doing. Now, it's also worth noting that she had a few heavier items, not many, but a few. There were glass jars of sauces with lots of pigment and staining properties. It's also worth mentioning that she was getting some chips that came in bags with pointy, sharper edges that eat bags for breakfast. The bag gets too heavy and they press into the sides at any angle and... Ooh, that bag's toast. It's also worth mentioning that she was getting several white clothes made of very stainable material. Nice clothes, she said they were for an important party she had to go to that night. Bragging. Normally, I would double bag, which would keep the sharp corners in check. But she was right. She only wanted one bag, so that must be all she needs. So I get the glass jars in with the clothes, nested in there nicely spaced out where they wouldn't hit each other with clothes between them, and the bags on top spread around the top so it was easier to lift the bag just like she wanted. The damn thing was already looking like it would bust wide open any second when she took it from the counter. Luckily, a line hadn't formed behind her yet, just someone looking the impulse buys over, so I couldn't really step away, but nothing to do but watch where I had a clear view of the parking lot. I watched as she struggled out the 2 front doors, no automatic, got 1/4 of the way to her car when the bag bust. Glass and sauce everywhere. She had like $15 worth, about 5 jars. She struggled to force them back into the bag, hoping she could at least pile them in her arms with the bag holding it together, trying not to cut herself or the glass she had wrapped up. It broke some more. She tried to salvage it and balance it back up. Failed, gave up, grabbed as much of an armful as she could. Had to take like 5 trips, her blouse and pants ruined. Maybe after over 1.5 years of cashiering nearly every day, I know what I'm doing. Shocker. 5. With the NFL playoffs back on, I thought you might all enjoy this football-related revenge story. I'm a huge 49ers fan, the rabid all-day tailgate in the parking lot type. A few years ago, we made it back to the Super Bowl. I was working at a consulting firm with a handful of accounts I would interact with directly. One client in particular knew how big of a Niners fan I was. I was the day-to-day lead on his account. He really liked working with me and we became friends, often grabbing drinks or dinner after our meetings. He had access to a pair of extra company seats to the game, and as a thank you, wanted to give them to me as a gift. He passed the tickets over to the partner in that account, who I will refer to as Dickhead Partner, to be given to me as a surprise. The game came and went, we lost, it sucked. The next time we met, we went to drinks afterward and he mentioned, "Hey, by the way, why didn't you go to the game? I heard someone else was in your seats." I asked, "What game?" "The Super Bowl." Confused, I answered, "I didn't have seats to the Super Bowl." He told me that he gave Dickhead Partner a pair of company tickets for me as a gift so I could attend. I had zero idea what he was talking about. He looked shocked. He told me quietly to ask around about it and get back to him. When I was back in the office next week, I found out through one of the secretaries that Dickhead Partner had given a pair of Super Bowl tickets to another one of his clients as a gift from our company. I might have let this sort of thing go to keep the peace under different circumstances, but these were seats on the 30-yard line to see the fucking 49ers play in the Super Bowl. I was pissed. I considered confronting Dickhead Partner myself, but realized it was the client who had noticed I wasn't there in the first place. So if I let him handle it, there would be no blowback on me. So I texted him, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you so much for thinking of me with those seats. It appears that they were given to another one of the firm's clients." He texted back in all caps, "Are you shitting me?" And then, "Pretend I never told you, let me handle." He followed up with me about formulating a plan. A few days later, we were asked to come down for a meeting in their office. The client requested the partner be present, not entirely unusual, so Dickhead Partner and I hopped a flight the next week and headed over to their office. Little did Dickhead Partner know my client had orchestrated a wonderfully awkward little show to catch him red-handed. When we entered the conference room, it was all the usual suspects along with a woman in her 30s we didn't recognize. My client immediately introduces, "Dickhead Partner, this is Stephanie such and such, VP from another department. She wanted to sit in on this meeting." "Hey, OP, you guys must already know her from the Super Bowl." She responds as she goes to shake my hand, "Oh, I don't think so. Did we meet there? I'm sorry if I forgot." The client responds, "Gee, Steph, how much did you have to drink? They were sitting right next to you." The client looks at me and I say, "I'm sorry, I wasn't there. Are you thinking of someone else?" At this point, Dickhead Partner is looking visibly uncomfortable, probably trying to come up with an excuse. He starts with an, when Stephanie says over him, "No, Bob Over Under from the Inflatable Marshmallow Company was in those seats. By the way, I was wondering why we gave company seats to those guys. Is there a project we're working on with them that I don't know about? Obviously not, they were in completely different industries. It would be like Coca-Cola partnering with John Deere. Dickhead partner lets out an again, and the client immediately speaks over him, asking, "Dickhead partner, I gave you those tickets for OP." At this point, Dickhead partner is turning bright red. He responds with, well, he wasn't able to make it, so he must have given the seats away to someone else. And turns to me, looking for me to cover for him. The client smirks at me. I respond, "What are you talking about? You gave me tickets to the Super Bowl?" The client suddenly raises his voice. "Dickhead partner, those tickets were a personal thank you gift from me to OP. Did you give them away to someone else? Was it another client?" Dickhead partner butts in with, maybe something got mixed up in the office." The client went quiet for what probably seemed like an eternity to Dickhead partner. He then looked down, grabbed his portfolio and iPad, put them into his briefcase and said, "I think this meeting is over. OP, it seems as if I owe you a thank you gift. Let's go to lunch. Stephanie, you're welcome to join. Dickhead partner, I need to evaluate our relationship. Please go back home and expect to hear from us next week." Dickhead partner suggests he would like to join, presumably, to do damage control, and Stephanie sternly tells him, "I don't think that's a good idea," and asks the front desk to see him out. As soon as he is in the elevator, we all break out laughing hysterically. Stephanie wasn't really a VP, just an employee at the company, who the client had drafted into helping with his pre-planned meeting skit. But she did end up coming to lunch with us and was a fellow Niners fan and a total blast to hang out with. On our way to the restaurant, I got a desperate text from Dickhead partner, saying I need to cover for the firm and that we would discuss things when I got back. I replied, "Yes, we need to talk, but I'll see what I can do." The client told me to wait a couple of hours, then respond to him. 1, to expect invoices for the resale value of the Super Bowl tickets. Resale is way above face value, it was over $10,000. As well as our lunch. He picked a pricey spot and made a big show of overspending, and that he expected them to be paid immediately. 2, expected I be given a direct apology. 3, expected a written apology to his company for what he considered theft. And 4, he will only interact with me or another one of our firm's partners, never Dickhead partner. The whole thing caused a stir with the other partners, and I actually came off looking great, because it appeared as if I had made a good faith effort to save the client for the firm, despite being the victim of this situation. The client would transfer to another partner, which made Dickhead partner lose his profit share of any work with them. Oh, and the other partners in the firm made him pay the invoices back out of his salary. In retrospect, I really have no idea what the guy was thinking. Did he seriously believe the client would just not notice me not thanking him for Super Bowl tickets? Anyway, the well was kind of poisoned for me there long term because Dickhead partner wasn't going anywhere. I left the firm a few months later for a much better position. Client ultimately terminated their relationship with that firm a year later. He actually now works with a good friend of mine at a competing firm. I'm still pissed I missed out on the Super Bowl, even though we lost. Hoping we make it back this year so I can finally go to one in person. Go Niners. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 241. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please do pop a like before you go, and share the video around with friends and family. Also, check out the Revenge is Ice Cream archives on Spotify and YouTube, if you are so inclined to follow these stories in podcast form. Alright, let's see. No other business today, so I'm going to move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, if you could choose one famous person, no longer with us, to be your guardian angel, show up, give you advice, chit-chat, all that sort of thing, who would it be? Personally, I'm going to pick Robin Williams. He was a very intelligent man. He lived a very interesting, varied life. And as we all know, he was Robin Williams, so he had a good sense of humor about most things. And I think he'd be able to impart wisdom on most subjects. Then pop off to whatever he does when he's not giving me advice. Oh dear, I just turned him into a genie, didn't I? Well, not like that, but you know what I mean, just as a guardian angel type figure. I look forward to reading your choices in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.